So I don't know if you've noticed this happening. I surely have. There has been a large group of Black Americans, just Black people in general, okay, that have been denouncing and renouncing their associations with fraternities and sororities. To get to that point, to do that, but God. It can only be God. We really don't understand that God is not playing with us when it comes to these covenants. And I understand that because of slavery, there's certain covenants that were made for the sake of protecting ourselves, right? That our ancestors put in place for the sake of protecting themselves and future generations, because they were ostracized, they were oppressed, and they were made to be kept out of opportunities, right? So their way of overcoming that was creating their own entities to protect their own. When they say you can't fight fire with fire, it's not a lie. You can't fight fire with fire. You simply can't. And essentially what happened, and this is, I want you guys to understand, this is coming from a Haitian woman, okay? This is coming from a Haitian woman, because people love to glorify the fact that Haitians won the Revolutionary War and that they called upon the ancestors. And I love my people. I love my Haitian people. And I know that this will upset them so much. I understand. Listen, and my goal, my desire is not to upset my Haitian people. But ultimately, at the end of the day, that was unwise. It was unwise on our ancestors' part. But at the same time, they didn't know no better, because they used the tools that they had at their disposal. And covenants were made. Covenants were made for the sake of protecting generations because of the oppression. And what's happening right now is people want to keep it on white people. I need you guys to get off of white people and go higher. Like, stop thinking about white people for a second and go higher. Like, go into the spiritual realm and look at this. Try with everything in you. Try to look at this from God's perspective. With everything in you. Get out of thinking about, like, I say this constantly. This is specifically for the people that are descendants of slaves. Those people are in the Caribbeans, in Americas, the diaspora. The offense of slavery, you have to heal from that. You have to heal from the offense of slavery. And I know that sounds like, what do you mean? Because the level of hate some of you guys carry, and you're so anti anything white. You're so anti anything that you deem as being white, that you classify as being white. You are so anti anything that you feel was introduced into you by white people. Even if it is good for you, you will reject it simply because a white person handed it to you. Oftentimes people talk about the problem being the messenger. It's not the message, it's the messenger. So the message can literally be a blessing to you. But if it comes in the form of a white person, some of you guys are like, nope, you're completely shut off, because you connect them with the trauma that your ancestors experienced. That's it. That's the only lens that you see them through. That's it. So going back to those individuals that have been denouncing and renouncing these covenants that they've made in these Greek fraternities and sororities. We're not supposed to have any other covenant other than the covenant that we have with God. That's it. And we don't understand that anytime we enter into covenants, covenants are a spiritual thing. They're a spiritual thing. And anytime we enter into covenants, the right kind of covenant is going to bless you. The right kind of covenant is going to prosper you. The wrong kind of covenant, it is going to be a destruction to you and your lineage and your bloodline. It is going to be destruction. You might reap the rewards for the moment. It might be temporal in the moment. The enemy might allow you to see some victory for the moment. But ultimately, the outcome of that covenant, there's going to be a bigger impact of that covenant that you're not ready to pay the price for, and you do not want your descendants to pay the price for. So it's not about these Greek fraternities, because this is not just, let's be clear, this is not just, oh, people try to demonize. Again, I talked about paganism in the previous videos. That's a worldwide thing, okay? When the Germanic tribes in Europe were on that part of the world in paganism, Black people, African people were on their part of the world in paganisms as well. Paganism, you can find it in every single culture. That has been what God has been attempting to deliver us from. Paganism. Paganism. Because for some reason, the human beings are obsessed with trying to worship these deities. They are obsessed with coming into alignment and coming into communion with these deities. And people are paying the consequences for it. So this is not, again, to condemn or demoralize Black fraternities and sororities. Because white, Hispanic, whatever sororities and fraternities, they all need to be renouncing and denouncing covenants that have been made. And this is the problem with culture, because culture will tell you that something is okay that God has already set in stone is not okay. Culture will make you feel like you can get away with something that God is going to show you you cannot get away with. And culture is constantly trying to be the doctrine of today, when the word of God is the doctrine of yesterday, today, tomorrow, and so on and so forth. And we're constantly fighting culture. So the denouncing of the Greek fraternities and sororities, that's not just something that people need to do here in America for those people that are getting the revelation of it. This is something that across the board, especially if you're a person of color and your family is the descendants of slaves, you should be denouncing any agreements that they made. Period. Any covenants that they made that were not made with the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, you should be denouncing and renouncing that. I understand that they thought they had great intentions. I understand that they thought they were doing it for your benefit, etc. But see, this is why the enemy constantly puts pressure on you. Why do they have things, for example, called predatory lending? The reason they have things called predatory lending is because life, like for example, like right now, life is going to be lifing and it's going to put a lot of pressure on you. And that pressure that it's going to place on you is going to make you force yourself and put yourself into bondage. And at some point in time, if you are a person that has been trying to like really, climb up the ladder and do the things for yourself, you might have been pushed in that direction, whether it be credit card debt, whether it be loans, whether it be all types of things out there that you do, right? These payday loans, all the types of things that people do because the pressure of life has been placed on them. And here you are, you're in another situation of bondage because of pressure. Well, pressure was placed on these ancestors and not realizing that their response to that pressure was going to put themselves in bondage. So we do need to denounce and renounce these things because many of these covenants, all of these covenants, if they are not made with the Creator, understand they are bondage. Period.